Hey, and welcome. It's a hot, humid day in the month of June. It's peak selling season, so you know what time it is. It's time for your May Frederick County Real Estate Market update. I want to get you guys up to speed. I'm Solomon, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, member of the community and local realtor right here in Frederick County. I know it's a lot of activity going on right now, and a lot of people are thinking about making a decision to move, especially before the school year. Trust me, I get that, and I want to give you all the information you can to be able to leverage that decision. In fact, I want to be your number one source for local real estate information, just really your go-to guy. I want you to be able to grab all the information you can, empower you with that information, and then you can use that to leverage the best decision for you and your family. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Meet me over at the desktop. Okay, so here we are. If you've been keeping an eye on the Frederick County real estate market lately, you've been noticing things feel a little different, right? There's a lot of noise out there. So today, I just want to cut through it and kind of show you exactly what's happening as we head into the summer of 2026. Like I said, it's going to be important for a lot of people who are trying to make that move and have everything finalized before the school year. I find that happens a lot with people for any reason when they need to move. Okay, so like I said, pay attention, take a few notes if you have to, and let's go. All right, so the big headlines today that I'm seeing for the month are more homes are hitting the market. Buyers finally have some breathing room, and yet prices are still holding strong, right? So here's the truth. The market isn't crashing and it's not exploding either. It's actually becoming healthier and more balanced depending on whether you're looking to buy or sell. There's either a huge opportunity or a bit of a warning sign. That's just what it is. So let's dive into the numbers a bit and I can help you with that. Let's look at the snapshot for Frederick County, right? Almost every key metric is up. Median sold prices are higher than last year. Sales volume is up. New listings, are surging. But the biggest story right now isn't about prices. It's about inventory, right? We're finally seeing significant increase in the number of homes available for buyers for the first time in a long time. The supply side of the equation is starting to catch up. So, that's a plus. Trust me. Now, inventory is surging. So we've seen a massive jump in active listings year over year, and that trend continued right through last month. Right, last year buyers were essentially fighting over scraps, right? And if you had jumped in the market at a time, you kind of understand. But this year you actually have options. Okay, you actually have options. All right, if you're a buyer, this means less pressure to settle for a house that isn't quite right and a much better chance to negotiate. Okay, so if you're a seller, it's a wake-up call, right? You have more competition now, and buyers can afford to be pickier and more discerning, right? So your pricing strategy, it matters more today than it has in years, 100%, because home prices are still climbing. Home prices are still climbing. There are a lot of people that assume that more inventory would automatically mean falling prices, but that's not what we're seeing. Not in our market, right? Prices in Frederick County remain incredibly strong. We see a small seasonal dip, month to month, which is normal. But year over year, the median sell price is still climbing. We're looking at a healthier market, not a declining one. Demand is still high enough to absorb all that new inventory without completely dumping the values. So we have to understand that the buyers have not disappeared, and that kind of brings us to demand, right? Despite higher mortgage rates and all the economic uncertainty that we hear and see on the news, which is real, buyers have not disappeared, right? In fact, sales volume is actually up, right? It turns out life does not stop. Life does not stop just because interest rates are high, right? People still need to move. I like to call them life events, right? People still need to move for jobs and family, divorce, unfortunately, change of pace. We have, maybe some people are sitting around in their home and it's just too much home, right? And, the grandkids live in another state and the kids, are too far away, or it just makes sense to go travel to them. So we have this huge house and we just don't need all of it. Getting up and down the stairs is a bit much. On the flip side, we bought a little while ago and, things have gotten better for us financially. We've grown our family. It might be time for some more room, right? So life events are kind of also driving demand, and the demand is real and it's steady. Okay. So how fast are these homes selling, right? With buyer demand being so strong, well, they are taking slightly longer to sell than they did during the unicorn years of the pandemic. But don't let that fool you, right? They're still selling faster now than they did just a few months ago, right? And even in February, I had a listing go and it sat for a week. But again, we have discerning buyers out there. So if the home is move-in ready and it checks all the boxes, these buyers are highly qualified to handle that interest rate. So they're out there, and it's just all about the proper pricing, right? So the days of, kind of putting a sign in the yard on Friday and having 15 offers by Monday are becoming way less common. And for buyers, this is great. You have more time to actually evaluate a home. For sellers, it means you can't expect an instant sale, right? Preparation and presentation are now mandatory. They're not optional, or at least have your price reflect the lack of those things, right? And again, I guess got to be honest with you guys, because I'm trying to be your number one resource for local real estate. So I need to be honest, and I need you to trust me with a little bit of that, right? Okay, so now it's time to talk about the elephant in the room, right? That beast, the mortgage rates, right? We're seeing them stabilize around 6.8 to 7, and really this is kind of more of a national average. I know I just locked in a buyer at 599 with great credit. I've seen 625, 635. So of course this is going to fluctuate, but this has created what we call that rate lock problem, right? Many homeowners are sitting on 3% mortgages and they really don't want to move and trade that in, for close to 7%, which, we all can understand. But on the flip side, many buyers are waiting for rates to drop. But here's the risk in that, when rates eventually do drop, a flood of buyers will jump back in, and that increased competition will likely drive prices even higher, right? So waiting for a lower rate may save you on your monthly payment, but it could cost you a lot more on your purchase price, right? So let's keep that in mind, okay? Now, what we have to do is think about the different strategies for both sides to kind of handle this market if this is the market that we're in. And I always do love to stress that, we may talk to our friends who have bought years ago or people, and are close to us who opinions that we trust. But if they're not in this current market, if they haven't bought in this current market, then, it really helps to kind of, update that information and use information for the market that you're in, because this is the market that you'll be buying and selling in. So that's what's most important, right? And again, that fire sale of interest rates being at, 2, 3, 4%, that wasn't seen for about 150 years. And I don't know if we're going to see it again, but this is kind of the new norm. And for a buyer, I have a lot of my buyers thinking, well, I can't get a 1-2 bedroom for less than 2,000, and my spouse couldn't do the same. So when we combine our income and think about the affordability, it may make sense to move, right? So you have to think about that. It really does help. So if you're thinking about buying this summer, you have a unique window of opportunity, right? You have more inventory, you have less competition, you have more negotiating power, which I absolutely love for you buyers, right? We're even seeing seller concessions. I've seen on almost every deal I've done here recently, there has been some help with closing costs. So that's becoming more common again. So my advice on affordability is you have to find the right house. If you can afford a payment when you find the right house, then buy the house, right? You can always refinance later when rates improve. And we say, you marry the house and you date the rate, right? That's super important. And you got to always think about that price versus cost aspect, because the bank is not giving you that lump sum of money to go buy the house, right? They're charging you a fee monthly, to be able to lend that money to you, right? So if you can afford that part of it, then the affordability starts to make more sense. And you don't have to think about that high number of the price when you see it, because it's a lot of money regardless, right? I do agree. Now, the biggest mistake I'm seeing in the market, especially for my sellers, is we have to really think about what's going on with chasing this market, right? We have to understand that, we can no longer kind of hit that easy button, and that's been removed. But the market is absolutely still rewarding good listings. Okay, we cannot be chasing the market with overpricing, and we got to remove some of that emotion, guys. We got to remove some of that sentiment, because a new buyer that comes into your home was not here when you measured your kids, height for the last 20 years, and And again, I'm just being upfront. That's not the things that they're looking at. They're looking at what's going to make it their home. So we got to remove some of the emotion and just deal with the things, the imperial facts that'll get us the top of market and the most exposure, right? So we cannot, chase those market trends that we saw. We have to price correctly from day one. Okay, it is super important. You got to have that winning formula. Okay, strategic pricing, targeted marketing, great photography, and someone that kind of understands social media. And all that leads to maximum exposure, right? Because really everybody starts the market as a buyer, and everybody starts the market right here, right? With that phone in their hand. So you got to be able to get that listing in front of them and stay in front of them, right? So the honest answer is those first 2 weeks are really the most important for you and your home. And it has to be priced correctly so you don't lose that momentum, right? You have to give buyers a reason to choose your home over, the three others that popped up on Zillow or on their MLS, or honestly right down the street, right? So we know what we're seeing. Okay. Now, what we need to really think about after we figure out, everything that's going on, we really need to think about who has the advantage, right? Honestly, I don't think either side really has an upper hand right now because buyers have more choices and leverage, but they're dealing with those higher rates we just talked about, right? And sellers are getting great prices, but they are facing more competition. So this is becoming one of the most balanced markets, honestly, we've seen in years in Frederick County. And that's actually a great thing for everyone involved, okay? So we have to really remember that when we create win-win situations, great price homes, move-in ready, highly qualified buyers, discerning, know what they want, can get you to closing with no hiccups, it really is a great situation for everyone involved, like I said. So what happens next is when you're looking ahead to the rest of 2026, I expect inventory to keep creeping up and prices to remain pretty stable, right? I'll be watching mortgage rates, and honestly, if you're a buyer, you should too, even if you're a seller, because if they drop even a little, I expect buyers actively rushing to the market. Okay. I'm also keeping an eye on our local employment growth here in Frederick, which continues to support our housing market. The private sector, healthcare, construction, all of that, all of those sectors are really bolstering our housing market, and bottom line is allowing people to continue to pay their bills, right? So it's a good thing for our local market. Even if the national market kind of has a more bleak outlook, we're holding pretty strong. And like I said, members are able to pay their bills, right? So that's super important. So if you're moving in the next 6 to 12 months, now's the time to start planning, and you really need to think about having some resources to look into, right? Okay, so that was a lot of information, right? And I know it was a lot to take in. So what should you do next, right? Every situation is different. So I think if you're a buyer, you probably should go ahead and really think about having someone help you with a game plan focused on your long-term goals, right? That's what's going to be most important. And then on the flip side, if you're thinking about selling, you probably need to see what your current home is worth and then kind of match that with your timeline and again another plan for your move, right? Because you also are kind of going to need to find a place to stay, right? And even if you're thinking about the next 6 to 12 months, that's fine. It's better to have a plan in place than to go out there with all that stress and anxiety of what you need to do when it's time to kind of hit that button, right? And I think that stress and anxiety is really what keeps people on the fence in the first place from really taking action. So let's empower you with some of that information so you don't feel so paralyzed by that information, right? Let's give you some data and we can move off that data and not guesswork, because like I said, every situation is different. I completely understand that. So whether you need a custom home value report or a full buyer's guide, which I provide, a lot of my first time home buyers actually love this home buyer playbook. I'm here to help. That's all I'm here for. So you can click the link and we can schedule a strategy consultation, or you can just get some of those free resources and kind of gather some more information yourself. Like I said, I'm here to be your #1 resource for local real estate information in Frederick County, right? I really want you to feel like you have a go-to guy that's here to provide value over a sale or a pitch, right? Of course, if you need help with any of that stuff we just talked about, I'd love to be the guy to help you with that. But click that link and get some of those free resources, or let's just chit chat to help you even understand the market beyond this conversation here, right? Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next update, okay? See you soon.